The skyline is dotted with ageing concrete blocks similar to Grenfell Tower. Lamia and her mum live in a building close enough to have felt the heat from the fire. They're on the 20th floor and are now worried about their own safety.
On my floor there isn't fire extinguishers, on the floor below me there isn't. I'm assuming there aren't any fire extinguishers. You know, it gives you a sense of panic for it. You're just like, I think it's leaving people a bit paranoid, like, when is it going to happen now?
The public inquiry into the fire announced by the Prime Minister will need to establish why it spread so quickly and whether the safety regulations are now dangerously out of date. The concrete blocks built in the 60s and 70s are a world away from the plush high-rises of the city. But in fact, the fire regulations have moved on very little, although nowadays there are rules on the kind of materials that can be used. The actual safety equipment has changed very little. Tower blocks can still be built with just one stairwell, a single escape route from a fire. And there's still no requirement for water sprinklers, even though they slow the spread of flames.
There used to be, under the London Building Act, a requirement, what's called Section 20, that if your building was over a certain height or certain size, then it had to, as a matter of fact, have sprinklers. But that got removed with the new regulations.
After the Lacknell house fire in South London in 2009, there were calls for tighter regulations. 6 people died. Once the fire authorities inspected residential blocks, not anymore.
I think fire service should statutorily be consulted every time a building goes up and have a statutory consultation. We do know that it's very discretionary whether people putting buildings up, architects and buildings controls, approved inspectors, always consult the fire brigade. They don't always do it.
Skyscrapers can be built to protect those inside. The Torch building in Dubai went up in flames 2 years ago, again cladding the problem. But the construction and safety equipment inside were faultless. There were no casualties. Serious questions will now be asked whether Britain's fire regulations are good enough. Thomas Moore, Sky News.